Welcome to today's episode of the People's Podcast. We will be discussing the outspoken hero, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. As we celebrate his 132nd birth anniversary on 14th April, we invite you to join us on exploring his frank opinions on dictatorship. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was not only a leading figure in India's struggle for independence, but also a champion of social justice and the biggest figure in anti-caste movement in India. He was a keen observer of social and political realities, and he wrote extensively on a vast variety of subjects, including social, political, and economic issues. In this episode, we will discuss Ambedkar's views on three types of dictatorships that we need to be cautious about. These are based on his own works and his own words. The three types of dictatorships have also been previously explored by Ambedkarite scholar Kancha Ilayya. For Ambedkar, the Constitution was not simply a document to provide rights to the citizens. It was also a barrier to threats from establishing any form of dictatorship. He saw three types of threats to the democratic and egalitarian values that our nation was built on: the dictatorship of the working class, the Islamic clerical dictatorship, and the Hindutva dictatorship. Let's look at the first threat of dictatorship that Ambedkar talked about. On 25th November 1949, when addressing the Constituent Assembly, he is quoted saying, "The Communist Party wants a constitution based upon the principles of the dictatorship of the proletariat. They condemn the constitution because it is based upon the parliamentary democracy. They want two things. The first thing they want is that if they come in power, the constitution must give them the freedom to nationalize or socialize all private property without payment of compensation. The second thing is that the fundamental rights mentioned in the Constitution must be absolute and without any limitations, so that if their party fails to come into power, they would have the unfettered freedom not merely to criticize, but also to overthrow the state." From this, we can explore the dictatorship of the working class or the dictatorship of the proletariat. Ambedkar was sensitive to the problems of the working class, but he was unsatisfied with the idea of establishing a dictatorship of the working class. He believed that communism's aim of establishing a dictatorship of the working class will ultimately lead to the subjugation of lower castes in India under the control of upper caste communists. He also felt the communists of his time only acknowledged class and not caste as the root of social inequality in India. Further, he recognized that almost all the political leaders and parties at that time consisted of upper caste, English-speaking intellectuals, though he understood that not all were castists. Ambedkar was also critical of the Hindutva or right-wing Hindu domination, which is the second type of dictatorship he warns us about. He believed that there exists a form of dictatorship in which a small group of people, mainly composed of upper castes, made all the ideological and political decisions at the top. This in turn oppresses everyone else. For example, in Chapter 13, Section 6 of the Pakistan on the Partition of India, Volume 8, he says, "If Hindu Raj does become a fact, it will no doubt be the greatest calamity for this country. No matter what the Hindu says, Hinduism is a menace to liberty, equality, and fraternity. On that account, it is incompatible with democracy. Hindu Raj must be prevented at any cost." Ambedkar considered Hindutva to be inherently discriminatory and oppressive towards those who were not a part of the Varna system. Therefore, he regarded it as a great threat to the democratic values and pluralistic culture of India. Ambedkar was a strong advocate for secularism. He was critical of the idea of an Islamic clerical dictatorship, which is a form of government based on Islamic principles. This was the third type of dictatorship he warned us about. Let's hear a short snippet from Chapter 12, Section 5 of Ambedkar's book, Pakistan or Partition of India, Volume 8, where Ambedkar argues against Islamic clerical dictatorship. "It is a system of social self-government and is incompatible with local self-government because the allegiance of a Muslim does not rest on his domicile in the country which is his, but on the faith to which he belongs. He studied this form of dictatorship closely as the demand for a separate Muslim state of Pakistan gained prominence. He understood the frustrations that Muslims had with the system at the time and closely interacted with the Muslim League. However, he expressed that the rule of religion is against the concept of Indian democracy. So that's Baba Sahib, bold, incisive, and outspoken. His strong views and direct way of speaking often put him at odds with many during his own time and even today. But for a moment, let's focus on the basic principle that he's talking about. He's clearly against dictatorship. He sees dictatorship as a system where full and unchecked power is taken by any one party, ideology, religion, class, or caste. And he feels that is completely against our values of democracy. So the questions for us to reflect on are his views on dictatorship relevant in today's context? If you think yes, then what can we do as citizens? Can we be alert and talk about any dictatorial tendencies that creep up in our society? Can we ask ourselves if we have such tendencies within our own selves? Can we put a check on our own dictatorial behavior? Can we question people with dictatorial ideas and thoughts? In such reflections and questions, we will find our own ways to keep our democracy alive and thriving, just like Ambedkar did, in his own way. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed listening to the People's Podcast from We, the People Abhiyan. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on YouTube and Spotify.